is about strategies for achieving food and nutrition security through intercropping of maize and artemisia for smallholder farmers. There is a relationship between poverty, malnutrition, and malaria. That is according to some studies which have been done by scientists from the health sector. So the debate is whether now how vulnerable is a poverty-stricken community to issues of malaria. So that is a debate for another subject, but for our purposes, the World Health Organization recommends the use of a shrub called artemisia in the treatment or first-line treatment of malaria. So this study is in two parts. One was done in Maseno at a master's level. The second part is happening now at Masile Muliro at PhD level, trying to intercrop maize and shrubs which are medicinal. One of them is artemisia, and another one is oxymum, which is used for food flavoring and for nutrition. So the aims of this study was just to evaluate the productivity of artemisia through artemisinin content. There was that yield of artemisinin, which is 0.89%. It is above the world average of 0.6. This is at Maseno area along the equator. Then, in summary, this study is available in a paper form. I don't know whether I've lost even further because there's some photos. There's some photos which I'm supposed to share with you, but I don't know.
Please come and help.
There's just some photo which I'm supposed to share with you, but in summary or in conclusion, there is this photo. The artemisia is suitable as a cash crop to improve the resilience of smallholder farmers. This is artemisia in between the maize crop at 2 months. Then the next.
You have half a minute. You are only supposed to be pitching, telling us, because we're going to be looking at this poster, so we don't want to hear a presentation.
That is a fully grown crop of artemisia and maize, and this is before transplanting. And after you harvest the artemisia, you get the cash. Now you can go and buy the malaria drugs or sell to a pharmaceutical company for processing of the anti-malarial content. So I'll end there, Madam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know what yours is? Remember you have 2 minutes to finish. Where is my ICT? Tala.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alleviation. I work for a civil society organization. The name of my organization is Development in Gardening, and I think I'm going to give you, I want to believe it's a perfect example of how civil society organizations can enhance multisectoral agri-nutrition approaches for improved nutrition outcomes. So my work is based in Homa Bay County. I'm glad we have colleagues from Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Health, Homa Bay County. And what we actually do in Homa Bay County, and given that Homa Bay County also has really need for nutrition interventions, my project reaches out to community, especially people in the rural areas, and trains them on gardening approaches so that they are able to grow diverse foods for their household nutrition purposes and not leaving behind income purposes. So we have families that grow food that they can eat and sell so that they meet their nutrition outcomes. In the process of doing this, we came up with a program we call Priority Household Program, which focuses on children who are already malnourished, and we do this in collaboration with the Ministry of Health and Ministry of Agriculture. So usually the children are identified by the hospitals, and once they are identified and put and ready to use therapeutic foods, then they are referred to my project for trainings on gardening so that they're able to grow food at home that they can consume and sell some. We have seen really great results because in 2 years we managed to meet a total of 56 children. Out of the 56, 53 recovered. Sorry, I feel so bad that we lost 2 because they were really severe cases. And out of the 53 that's recovered, usually sometimes I feel bad to say that 2 have remained stunted in the whole process. And it makes me believe that issues of malnutrition are really severe and we should rescue our children before it is too late for them, before they are really affected by effects of malnutrition. In the process, families that we have engaged or households that we have engaged have managed to grow more vegetables in their farms. That is increasing their farm diversity and eventually their diet diversities. People have started to consume more vegetables from their gardens compared to before. Right now they consume about 11 meals from their gardens, the population we work with, and overall their income from their gardens have increased from an average of 540 to 1,000.
Thank you very much. 160. Thank you very much. Next, please.
Please also.
Phyllis Adiapo, thank you. Adabi, thank you. You have only 3 minutes and I'm sorry, we have less. You have that time to preach further than everybody else, but you raised the interest, I think. Phyllis, the rest of you don't have that, don't worry. You're not supposed to. I'm breaking loose. Phyllis.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, my poster is on trials for good practices. It was done in Kitui County. And it's an educational methodology that is using multisectoral approach to educate farmers and negotiate together with them the feeding practices and the options that they have at the household level. The trials were targeting 100 households with children below 0 to 23 months, and they were targeting both nutrition sensitive and nutrition specific intervention among the households that we were dealing with. So during the trials, there are various things we were looking at, and it's the community that was doing all the identification of what they think is the problem when it comes to nutrition. This was conducted by the administration and the community itself. So as we can, that is the poster and the objectives are on the poster, and we had a lot of good results during these interventions, and as you come along to see the poster, we'll ask questions and you'll get an in-depth of what we did and what has been done. It was done in collaboration with the FAO, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Health, and obviously the main people, the beneficiaries, who are the households, and maybe the parents who are the caregivers. Thank you.
Thank you for being brief. Esther Mosa and Shadrach Oye.
Get a mic. Get a mic.
Good afternoon. My name is Esther Omosa, and I'm going to take 2 minutes to take you through my poster presentation, which is titled as Supporting Behavior Change to Enhance Consumption of Nutritious Diverse Diets Among Pastoralists in the northern part of Kenya. This is a program that is implemented by Feed the Future in 5 ASAL counties, that is Turkana, Marsabit, Wajir, Garissa, Isiolo. We are looking at improving the dietary diversity of women, and also children below the age of 2 years, and because of their vulnerability and other things. So this is a program that we are leveraging nutrition across the livestock value chain. So all the livestock activities, right from the start up to the consumption way, we are mainstreaming nutrition in terms of all the value chain actors that we are working with. If they are marketers, if they are sellers or producers, we are messaging nutrition, whereby we believe that through 3 main pathways, the livestock producers are going to improve their nutrition. 1, through the production. We believe that if they produce and we support them to increase productivity, they are going to have access to animal source foods. 2, through the income, we're linking them to markets and giving them market information so that they get premium prices for their products. That would be either their milk, but mainly we are looking at the whole livestock, the live animal. And so the income that they get, we give them nutrition messaging using the Agri-Nutrition dialogue cards, so that they purchase nutritious foods that they do not necessarily produce at home. The 3rd pathway is the women empowerment pathway, where we are deliberately targeting women, because we know women are custodians of nutrition, and of course not just the women, but also engaging men, because we know, being a patriarchal society, women on their own cannot make decisions to improve nutrition. We've seen results, dietary diversity changing, though slowly because of many other issues, illiteracy and culture and other things. We are seeing more, with the cooking demonstrations, we are seeing women or households, but consuming foods that they don't necessarily produce at home, like some of the vegetables that they don't traditionally be eating. So I welcome you to our poster.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You don't need to do that. Next person is Joseph Ndegwa. When she's not Joseph, Elizabeth Ama. Yeah, on behalf of Joseph Ndegwa.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, welcome to my poster presentation. I'm Elizabeth Haman, standing in for my colleague Joseph Ndegwa. Apparently, he has lost somebody; he wasn't able to attend. But welcome again. Our poster title is Empowered Value, where we change the mindset of our target beneficiaries so that they can use the locally available resources within the locality to improve their living standard in terms of economy, in terms of nutrition status and health status. So for us here, for the economic empowerment, we have a project in Bomet, where we have the project facilitates participants to identify, appreciate and use locally available resources. And we have 3 main chains. 1, we use poultry, we have milk, and we have orange flakes with potato. So what can they use that can add value to these products? So as you can see, we have also Chebunyo dairy farm, where we have farmers putting in their milk, and then it's being added value to yogurt, where children can use to add value to their nutritional food items, there as you can see. We also have, through that, the dairy farm provides cheaper milk products to the community so that they can access and utilize those products. So I welcome you to my poster. After this, please come and inquire more about what you are doing.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Eva Luguru, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Eva Gidogo from JQuat, the Department of Medical Agrobiology, and my topic was mainly medically based, where I was looking at the microbial contamination in poultry feeds. And so there are various processes through which poultry feeds undergo before finally being given to the poultry. Then we have production and harvesting, we have processing, we have production and harvesting, we have processing, we have storage. So this formed the basis of my research. I wanted to find out if these processes lead to the increased contamination levels. So my research was focused on 2 of these stages, which I'll be able to explain further during my presentation. And I compared the contamination levels in these 2 stages through the microbial load and the bacterial and fungal contaminants. So through this, we'll be able to see the effects contamination has through issues such as the burden of diseases, high morbidity and mortality rates, and through high morbidity and mortality rates, and mostly through increased infections to humans as consumers of these products. So I welcome you to my poster.
Thank you so much. Can we have here the OE? Is Shiva more here? Oh, you relax. Is there somebody else today? What from Shiva? Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hilda Wee. I work with the African Population and Health Research Center. Beginning 2018, we engaged in a public engagement project involving community members through participatory visual methodologies to have them document their experiences with food insecurity in urban poor settings, and we're able to come up with a number of findings which you can visit my stand to get to know more about.
Thank you so much. The last person is Noor. Is there anyone who's left?
Good afternoon. My name is Shiva Noor. I work for Care Kenya under the Kenya Rapid Program. Our intervention under Kenya Rapid Program, we have 3 different interventions. One in policy development in the counties. Another one is engaging private sector in terms of sustaining programs, especially in the wash. And we have nutrition sensitive programming in the same. So we work in 5 different counties, as counties of Wajir, Garissa, Turkana, Isiolo, and Marsabit. And I'm speaking for Garissa. For Garissa, we have the Tana River, and we have over 250 groups doing agricultural production in Garissa, for those who don't know. So, after consulting with the county government and identifying the needs of the farmers, we found out that the irrigation, which they were using to grow crops, was very expensive because they were using earth canals, open earth canals. And you know, in northern Kenya, the issue of evaporation because of the weather. So we devised a method in which we introduce a new technology in irrigation where we are calling it the closed canal system, where we are using PVC pipes and control boxes and sluice valves to distribute water to the farmers. In this, the results are reduced cost of diesel, because they were using diesel gensets to pump water, and they were losing a lot of water on their way to the farms. Because this is a farmer group, and the group, one of the groups is around 100 members, and because if each member has a portion in that group farm, and everybody is competing to have a portion near the intake because of that irrigation cost. Some farmers found themselves like 4 kilometers away from the intake and irrigating. A mother was telling us she was using 70 liters of diesel to irrigate like 2 acres of tomatoes. And you know the frequency of irrigating tomatoes is like twice or thrice per week under that condition. So if you calculate that, it does not make sense to grow crops in that area. So now what we are doing, we are using that system
Thank you so much, we are very grateful.
We have a post on the same, you can find us there, please.
Thank you very much. Sorry, you have the honor to talk to us, or we've been coming to listen to. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to start the session. We are 30 minutes behind schedule, and we have 3 presentations today. I'll say at most 15 minutes each. That will take us to 45 minutes. If you're able to finish your presentation early enough, I'll give you time to receive a question. Otherwise, you will have questions at the very last 15 minutes. After we finish this session, we shall again go to the poster session to visit what we have heard from them. So please allow me to call the first presenter, Professor J.C. Onyango. J stands for what? John? Who is the chairman of the National Rice Technical Committee in the Ministry of Livestock, Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries, and is also a professor at Maseno University. And he will be speaking to us about rice productivity and value chains in Kenya. Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to present to you what we have done as a nation, where we are coming from, and where we are moving to. This is a kind of multisectoral strategic plan for rice development. We have done it from 2008 to 2018. We are now on phase 2, running from 2019 to 2030. Just the time of our Vision 2030. The rice as a commodity, we know that it is one crop, one cereal which has fed over half of the world population. And if you put the demographic map of the world and the rice production areas, you find that where the density is very high, China and India, that's where the production is also highest. The problem which the African countries have been having is that, unlike what happened in Asia or Latin America, our colonizers didn't develop any infrastructure. And at independence, all the countries were grumbling with infrastructure, and that affected our development in a very big way. By 1980s, that is when the World Bank came with a structural program, which to me was a failure anyway. Most African countries were grumbling for food. What we are doing now, we have about 23 sub-Saharan African countries which are being put together and a card coalition in rice development. Our target in the second phase is to double the rice production at a rate at least 280 metric tons by 2030 to feed Africa. That production, or what I'm going to present, hinges on governance. And when I talk of governance, I mean both national government and the county government. We are saying that the national government is supposed to contribute about 10% of the GDP to agriculture, and we expect the same. The situation is not very good, as you heard also yesterday. We are talking about 3%, which is very minimal. I talked about infrastructure. If you look at the Kenyan map, you realize that the oldest road we have is that road from Malanga to Mombasa and from Busia to Mombasa. Then we have some roads in central Kenya going up to Nanyuki. Now we are developing that one to Moyale, and that is the sketch. Now, the development of roads affect the marketing of agricultural produce, and that is a very big drawback in what we are doing. When we look at the white map, that is the arable part of Kenya. The yellow is semi-arid, and the red or orange is the arid. We are working with about 23 counties. nearly all the counties in Western Kenya, except Nyamira and Kisii, because of the cold temperatures. But what I want to highlight is that we are also working with Turkana, West Pokot, Garissa, and Isiolo for rainfed rice production. And that is an achievement. The white part is where we have most of the irrigation schemes, Mwea, Ahero, Punyala, and West Kano. But we are also developing the scheme at Pekera, which used to produce onions, but we are now turning it into rice. Now, what agriculture contributes to our GDP is not something to overemphasize. And what we are trying to do is that under the National Rice Development Strategy 2, we are trying to break even by 2030, where our production should be meeting our national demand, and then reduce almost 23 billion Kenya shillings, which we spent on rice importation in 2016. Productivity, we are working with committees. We have a committee on seed production, we have a committee in mechanization, we have a committee in marketing, and we have another committee in the production systems. So all those put together increases the productivity of rice in Kenya, and so far we are happy. Now, that is the trend which we have, and that is what we had as a roadmap, which is guiding us from 2011 to 2018. Of my interest, the yellow line here, that is the contribution from smallholder farmers. And that's why yesterday I was not happy when we were talking about the large-scale farmers, because no country has ever produced its food without paying attention to small-scale farmers. I said that we want to break even by 2030, and those are our projections. Now, between 2018 and 2022, that is where we have the Big Four. And one of the pillars of the Big Four is the food and nutrition security. So the blue bars just gives the estimates which we want to achieve under the Big Four. Then the blue line here, this talks about the importation, and the yellow line talks about how we want to increase the production, and the straight black line here, that is the consumption, which is increasing. So you can see that by 2030, the consumption is meeting the production, and the importation is falling almost to zero. That is the target, what we want. How are we going to achieve this? What we are going to do is that where the irrigation system has been developed, so the water will be there for almost 2 cropping systems. The same thing is going on in Ahero. Very soon, under the lower Nzoia, Udalangi will also be having enough water, and also through gravity. For the other countries, the Turkana, West Pokot, Garissa, we are going to more or less achieve that by encouraging the smallholder farmers under the rain-fed rice production system. So we believe we can achieve that. That is a kind of rain-fed rice, that is at Maseno, and you can see the production. When you see that, you may think that it is either you are seeing it in West Kano or in Mwea, but it is possible under rain-fed conditions with the good culture and water conservation. There are several benefits, and our target here is the farmer. So those are the benefits which the farmer will be having. But what we have realized, and what has been emphasized in this conference, is that farmers are better off working as a group rather than the solitary or the lone rangers. They will not benefit more. We are trying to encourage the marketing system, what we have in tea, coffee, pyrethrum, and other horticultural produce. so that we have it in that system. The challenges we have in rice and maybe any other cereal production is that the farmers are on their own. Why do I say that farmers are on their own? If you look at the Muya situation, the farmers produce rice, then they deliver that rice to Muya cooperative, which takes about 3 months or 4 months before they pay the farmer. What it all means is that they have to sell the rice to pay the farmer. The farmer had to use his own money to produce the rice. So what it all means is that the government is not assisting much, so the farmers are on their own. If we can change that system, the insurance we are talking about, or the funds being available, so that the farmers are paid on delivery. Because of lack of payment, that is the problem we are having in Western Kenya, where most of the rice ends up in Uganda, the paddy rice ends up in Uganda, because the Ugandans come with cash money and the Kenyan farmers will sell the rice to them. If we do that, we lose a lot in the rice value chain system. Food security, I think that was my first slide. Rice has fed almost half of the world, 7.7 billion, and it can still feed us in Kenya if we do it the correct way. Agricultural research must contribute to this, and we have also factored that one in. That's how we are getting the high elite seeds. In fact, we are also partnering with the private companies. We have a company in Malindi which is producing the hybrid rice, and that is feeding into the system. Kenya Seed System has also started producing or marketing the rain-fed rice, the genericas, as the NIB still continues with the production of irrigated rice. What are our recommendations? What we are saying is that rice can do well, and there's also need in research and extension, as we talked about the extension. When we went to devolution, the extension seems to be an orphan somewhere, but we are encouraging the county governments to factor in some money for the extension officers to do their work and help our farmers. And in conclusion, this strategy can be upscaled in the production technology, and the implementation will help various ministries of agriculture. There will also be spiral better natural resource management, and then the marketing and the availability of rice to urban communities. If everything is coordinated well, we believe it can work in the sub-Saharan Africa. And those are the people I want to encourage. And finally, I want to say that if he can make it there, he can make it in our project. Thank you.
Yes, actually saved quite a lot of time. He's made a pitch for paying farmers on time. Although he hasn't touched anything about water quality, irrigation, which is really for your lowland rice. But again, I noted you didn't touch anything on heat stress, where you're growing rice in Pekera. It would be very interesting to hear. But these are not my questions for now. Let me open that and then you answer mine last. Questions for the good professor? Any more? 1, 2. He has like 7 or so minutes. 1, 2, 3, right here. This side?
No.
On my right?
On my.
Okay, thank you for rescuing that. Okay, let's start.
Alright, thank you, sir, for your presentation. Now that we're in an Agri-Nutrition conference, maybe you could make a comment about bio-distribution of rice, the private sector, or any other modality there.
Next.
Thank you. I'm Fred Koske from Bomet County. What I want the presenter to tell us is on how to handle the issue of marketing, because that is the main problem, especially because of the pricing, and also what are the incentives that can be provided provided so that it can encourage farmers to practice the rice farming, especially in other areas like Bomet and the other, that is on the new varieties. Thank you.
Thank you. You are the chairman of rice production. We used to have Dominion as one of the farming systems for rice. I don't know, what did you try to do to enable us have rice productivity increase there? But unfortunately, we don't have the Dominion anymore. So as the chairman, what did you do at that particular time when we were having issues?
Susan, you have to say what Dominion is. Other people don't know. I and you know, but what's Dominion and what's
Dominion is a farm, I think he can answer it better.
No, just tell me.
Dominion is in Sierra, where we have the yellow swan, and they used to do a lot of rice planting, but now they are doing sugarcane.
Okay, that's enough. Thank you so much. The last question. Question 4.
Thank you, Professor, for your interesting presentation. My concern about rice is the cost. I see you have done projections that if we continue, and produce at that rate, then at this point, demand and supply will be met. But right now, the cost is prohibitive, even of the locally produced rice. And therefore, the other people who are bringing in rice are really having a field day. If we meet that, is the cost going to come down?
Answer those 4, then finish with mine on irrigation.
Yeah, so the first question was talking about the value addition, and what we are doing now, we are moving into the parboiled rice in the system and see how it fares on very well. The other thing we are talking about is that most of you have been buying rice from where? In fact, we Kenyans have got a special taste for aromatic rice. And that's where the Kenyans, the price you are talking about, that is where we are hit below the knee. Because what they do, they import cheap rice from Pakistan and adulterate it. So when you smell it, just few grades of the aromatic rice, the basmati which is there, you think you are buying the Mwea Bishori. And yet, half what you are buying is just the Pakistani rice which is adulterated. Also tried to price all commodities, agricultural commodities in Kenya. When you calculate the break-even price, the production price is very low. But then the farmers put up their price at a higher level for one main reason. And the example I give is that if you go to the bank and your credit rating is very low, you are not going to benefit from cheap loan because the bank has factored in that it is a risk. What the farmers are doing is that if you are going to give your produce and you are going to be paid in 4 months' time, then you must factor that one in the price, and therefore the other person will be paying at a higher price. That's why we are also in our document, we are recommending that if the government can either come with the insurance or some revolving funds so that the farmer's produce is paid more or less instantly so that they go back to the farm. That will also lower down the prices.
Professor, I hate government. I mean, when I say, I hate Sirikali's idea. I mean, there must be something else as you answer those questions.
What I'm talking about is that you have no business governing if you cannot support the system. Sometimes in June, when this US and China trade war started, the Huawei was there, then the agricultural produce from the US was there. Chinese said that, okay, if you're not going to sell us the electronics, we are not going to buy agricultural produce. Next morning, what Trump said is that the US federal government was going to pay $20 billion US dollars to push the farmers. That is a government. So what I'm talking about is that I'm not talking about government to say serikali. I'm not talking about that serikali. I'm talking about we must take the responsibility in the governance. We must take the responsibility and we must shift from what we call our system is that the government is very proactive to the consumers and we don't mind what the farmers are going through. We must shift that. That's what I'm talking about, Dr. Malinga. So, Joyce, I'm not saying I'm not a serikali person. I'm just saying that the governance comes with some responsibilities. And when I'm talking of responsibilities, it's the national government and the county government as well. Now, what the question from Bomet. Bomet and Kericho are in two cold for rice. And that's why we are not talking about that. Your other question was touching on marketing, which I think I've handled what is really revealing marketing. Rice doesn't have marketing problem in Kenya. And that's why we are spending, the people importing rice are not the government. These are the private sectors we spent 23 billion in 2016. A private entrepreneur will not put his or her money where the profit is not there. So the market is not a problem, it's just a policy issue, but that can be sorted out. I don't know whether I've left somebody out, but that's what I started with. When I talked about the parboiled rice, bringing it in, and then adding, remember in the 80s, we are talking about the vitamin A rice from Switzerland, which was also just a hoax. But we can fortify that. Your education system, you see, I have a whole 100-page strategic plan to present. And if I go to nitty details, you won't tell me that you have run out of your time. So what I'm saying is that irrigation is taking place, like where it has been expanded by increasing. In fact, the JICA pump a lot of money. We have now extended it to Western Kenya at Ahero. In Budalangi, there is already come the lower Nzoia, which will then supply water through the gravity system.
To name the posters.
Sorry? I think you can go through them.
Maybe something that will be a challenge for them in terms of both operation and also maintenance. So out of the manually operated off-grid equipment, they are able to produce some of the milk products like fermented milk and ghee. And through this, especially for ghee, which is high in fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A, D, and E, you are able also to extend the period by which their products are safe and they are of high quality, at the same time bridging the gap between wet and dry seasons. The other approach that is applied, which is also cost effective and also uses green energy or solar energy, is blanching, especially for vegetables. Through the products from the home gardens, the women are also supported with capacity building on how they are able to blanch their vegetables and then dry. And they don't require those sophisticated also dryers to do the same, but they are able to use some just locally assembled equipment to do their blanching and also drying. And one of the advantages of doing blanching is because of the challenge of accessibility within the county or within the sub-county. So when they blanch their products and dry, then they are able to store them for an extended period of time, close to 1 year. That means even if they don't access their markets, maybe on a weekly basis, they are able to store the same and utilize it over extended period of time. There is also integration of home gardening, milk processing with animal husbandry, whereby farmers are taught on how to preserve and store fodder for the animals, because you cannot separate livestock feeding resources and also the outputs that come from those livestock, especially milk and meat. So we did some evaluation some times back, an external evaluation in efforts to try and see some of the impacts that were created out of the contextualized integrated approach. What we are saying, if you want to tackle the problem of malnutrition that is deep-rooted in the area, and even outside counties, you need to, there is no one single solution, but you need to integrate a number of approaches. And after integrating those approaches, we did some evaluation. And from our baseline, whereby the dietary diversity for children 6 to 23 years, children 6 to 23 months, were 20.6, that is in 2014. By 2017, we were able to report an increase from a baseline of 20.6 to 69% in terms of dietary diversity. Then 20% of the households from the beneficiary sites were also reported to have a 20% increase in milk yields. And also, through the evaluation, we are able to know that the availability of the nutrient-dense milk products was reported also to be extended over a dry spell. Remember, during the dry spell, that is when we have so many cases of malnutrition. So basically, with the integrated approach, then it was reported that we were able to bridge the gap between the dry season and also wet season in terms of availability of diverse diets. And it was also reported through qualitative data that there was reduced cases of diarrhea and brucellosis. And probably I would like to share with you briefly on a study that was done back in 2013 about brucellosis that covered 3 counties, Marsabit, Kajiado, and Kiambu. And it was shown that in Marsabit, over 46% of those members that were interviewed had cases of brucellosis. And the animals, around 30% of them had also brucellosis. And this is basically because of lack of boiling of milk before consumption. Traditionally, pastoralists are known to consume raw milk. And raw milk, I'm sure most of us are aware, you know that it harbors Brucella rotas that causes brucellosis. And one of the approaches that we are using is to capacity build the pastoral community on the need to boil or pasteurize their milk before consumption. Then utilization of diversified diets through practical sessions or cooking demonstrations has also contributed acceptability of some of the products that are traditionally known not to be consumed by the pastoral community, especially poultry and poultry products. And overall, nutrition status of children receiving diversified diets was seen to have stabilized during the dry season. So the photo there shows one of the groups that is processing milk. Some of the lessons that we have learned are: one, integrating pest and disease control using locally available materials such as livestock urine, pepper, ash, and neem tree enhances food safety besides being cost effective. And as I was saying, one of the food system outcomes is about food utilization, and food utilization there is the issue about food safety. So if when the communities are able to use those organic pesticides, then they are contributing to some extent to the food safety, even for the consumers of those home gardens. Then, water efficient technologies like vertical gardens, raised gardens, and container gardens also increases adoption of home gardening in the pastoral community. And also integrating home gardening with the nutrition trainings incorporated with cooking demonstrations increases utilization. And then the other lesson that we have learned is the role of men as an influencing group in the pastoral community. Men being the decision makers in the pastoral community, wherever they are involved, especially in terms of livestock keeping and also the issue to do with milk, then there is a high potential of adoption of the approach. Then simple locally made milk processing movement has been found to be effective in household milk value addition, as it requires minimum maintenance and operation costs. And lastly, integrating of food nutrition approaches through a contextualized package is the best and sure way of reducing cases of malnutrition in the pastoral community. And some of the recommendations, I think this is a question that I started by saying, probably by the end of my presentation, you need to be able to respond to whether it's possible to scale up. And we are recommending scale up of contextualized interventions targeting home gardening, milk processing, food enrichments, and cooking demonstrations in the pastoral community as a way of curbing malnutrition. Then the other recommendation is simple milk production is dependent more on livestock feeding resources. Then there is need for integrating livestock feeding with milk value addition trainings or activities. I want to end by acknowledging our donor, German Corporation DAZ, and World Vision Germany, Massabit County, through the Department of Agriculture, Department of Health, and the Sami's community and their leaders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Phineas Mukunda. He's showing us that it's possible to start teaching pastoral communities about gardening. Let's welcome the next speaker, Anthony Nderitu. Anthony, welcome. Anthony Nderitu? He's not in. In the absence of Anthony Nderitu, who was supposed to talk to us about revitalizing milk market household income recovery and child nutrition in northeastern Kenya. So we can skip that one and gain time and move to role of kitchen gardens in promoting dietary diversity among women of reproductive age in Kericho County. Now we can move from the Asos and go to Kericho County. Mercy, are you around? There were to be two Mercies. There was one who was defending her thesis this afternoon, and she had nominated somebody to stand in for her by the name Mercy also. Nancy Chepkurui had nominated Nancy Chepkul. Nancy is also, Mercy is also not here. Okay, Florence. Florence now gets the slot. This is the paper that had been inadvertently omitted, and this is the paper that is on your page 32 of the program that is going to deal about the influence of nutrition knowledge on dietary, page 32. Yeah, dietary diversity, practices and attitudes of pregnant women attending antenatal clinics in Migori County. Welcome.
Thank you so much. My name is Florence Oduo. I work at Rongo University. I'm going to make a presentation titled Influence of Nutrition Knowledge on Dietary Diversity, Practices and Attitudes of Pregnant Women attending antenatal clinics in Migori County, and that is in Kenya. This was part of a work that was done by other authors, so I am presenting it also on their behalf. Now we know that according to a lot of reports that have been written, there's a lot of hunger and food insecurity in the world, and this is especially women. Reports indicate that over 60% of those who are food insecure in the world are women, and they also suffer from persistent nutrition deficiencies. And we also know that in many parts of the world, women get pregnant when they are already underweight, and that includes Kenya. Now, some of the reasons why this is so in Kenya is that we have suboptimal feeding practices. Women also engage in very high physical activity, even during pregnancy. There's low consumption of energy and micronutrients in the diet of women in Kenya. And also according to the government of Kenya 2012, there is also insufficient knowledge and awareness on nutritionally adequate diets. And that is also supported by UNICEF. Now, to be able to improve local and even global health and development, all of us, that is what we were saying in the morning, that upscaling nutrition cannot be gainsaid. And given that the close links between maternal and child nutrition, efforts are therefore needed to be able to improve the nutritional status of women. And this will also be able to help nations, and including Kenya, in attaining global nutrition targets of the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, if you look at the Kenyan healthcare system, nutrition education is missing. It is there, but it is inconspicuous. And even interventions which have been laid down for women, nutrition interventions, both in the whole country and also in Migori County, for pregnant women, many of them have not produced impact. And that has been supported by UNICEF, and even the government of Kenya and other authors have reported that these interventions have not yielded the required impact. And because of this situation, in light of the continued poor nutrition indicators and the poor coverage of evidence-based interventions, a study was done in Migori to be able to create awareness among pregnant women, to be able to upscale their nutrition practices by promoting behavior changes that will be able to improve nutrient intake, and if nutrient intake is improved, then pregnancy outcomes will also improve in Migori County. The method that was used in this research was a prospective cohort study design that was done in Migori County, targeting pregnant women and only those who are attending antenatal clinics. The clinics were sampled purposively, and inside those clinics that had been sampled, simple random sampling was done to obtain or to select the women into the program. And sample size determination, scientific formula was used, that was by Fisher, and this was done to obtain about 150 women, pregnant women. And the tool that was used was a nutrition knowledge practices and attitude questionnaire using a face-to-face interview. And the data was collected at baseline and also after intervention, because these women were exposed to a nutrition intervention program. And not all the women were entered into the study. There was an inclusion criteria, and so only the women who were at least, who had less than 26 weeks gestation were included, those who only carried single pregnancies, and those who resided in the county for a minimum of 6 months, and of course those who gave consent were able to be selected and to participate. And the result, from the results that we obtained, the dietary practices of women, just like I've said, what I'm presenting is just part of the research program. So I'm just giving a section of what was done. We found that most of the women on the day that the study was done, most of them had a usual and normal intake, what's the quantities that they usually eat all the time. The health condition that was influencing diet, most of them had none. No health condition was interfering with their diet, and so most of them was on a normal diet. And again, a few of them had some problems, pregnancy-related problems that were affecting their eating, but most of them said that nothing was interfering with their eating habits. Again, dietary practices continued, the other side. A nutrition knowledge score was done at baseline to be able to determine their knowledge levels at baseline. And then again, it was done after they had been exposed to the program. And after the intervention, the nutrition knowledge score for most of them was high. But at baseline, most of them had very low nutrition score levels. For number of meals that the women consumed in a day before they were exposed to the program, most of them at baseline had or took 3 meals in a day. We had those who took 2 meals and even 1 meal in a day. But after they were exposed to the program, most of them were now taking 4 meals in in a day. Those who took 3 meals now reduced, but we had none of them taking 1 meal or even 2 meals. So you can see that the program at least created awareness among them and helped them to be able to increase the number of meals they consumed in a day. Again, when you looked at the frequency of consumption of foods in various food groups, for those women, we took data at baseline and then also after the exposure. And then we were able to carry out significant tests to be able to tell whether there were significant changes. We realized that, of course, cereal grains and starches was the frequency was high at baseline, but after intervention it went a little down, and this change was significant, although negative. Meat and poultry and fish, it went up, but this change was not significant. Vegetables, the frequency went down a little, and it was a significant change. Fruits, also the frequency went up, and when the statistical test was done, the increment in the consumption of fruits was significant. Eggs and dairy was also significant. Beverages, reduced consumption of beverages, and that was especially teas and coffees. It went down a little bit. It was negative, but not significant. The same to fats and oils, consumption went down, but again, this was not significant. When we looked at the variables that were measured for practices and attitudes at baseline and also at post-intervention, many of those variables, there were changes that were significant. For example, positive attitudes of the women towards increased food intake was significant. A lot of pregnant women fear to eat more food because they think the baby will be too big. But after the exposure, their attitude changed. Many of them also increased their rest during pregnancy. Again, normally the argument is that a pregnant woman is supposed to be just as active as before. But from our previous studies, we have seen that it is necessary for a pregnant woman in the developing world to reduce a little bit their physical activity. Hygiene increased significantly. Washing of hands also increased, but not significant. Again, their attitude towards increased rest also changed significantly. And for the lessons that were learned from this observation, we found that there were statistically significant improvements in most of the pregnant women's nutrition knowledge practices and dietary behavior indicators, and there were also increments in number of meals that were consumed in a day. And we also found that there was dietary diversity which was achieved because frequency of consumption of most of the important food groups increased significantly. Again, consumption of those foods which are supposed to be eaten in less amounts, those ones also reduced after the exposure. And this observation recommends that the government, and when we talk about the government, that is the national as well as the local government, needs to strengthen nutrition education program within the primary health care system for pregnant women in order to help them to be able to acquire nutrition knowledge and attitudes that will lead to optimal feeding practices. It also recommends that agricultural food policies should be promoted at directing increased productivity, increasing food production, and also to be able to create greater diversity in food production and also food diversity consumption at the household level. This study acknowledges the National Research Fund and also Provo University. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Florence. Let's give her another round of applause. So we are seeing that knowledge is power. We can sit with knowledge, we can be able to impact. So with that, we end our oral presentations, and without much ado, I want to invite the presenters to the podium. Welcome. Kevin Onyango. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you had a set of very informative presentations, and I do know you have questions, you have areas you want to see clarity. You may also just have comments. This is your time. This is your time. So we'll take the first set of, let's say, 3 questions, and then we will keep on going until we see whether we can be able to exhaust all of them. So let's start with the number 1 gentleman, or 2nd gentleman, 3rd lady. Yeah? Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Francis, and I work for Bypass International. So I have some questions and comments for the presenters, and I want to thank them for those wonderful presentations. They have, I know they will impact us a lot in terms of our program areas. So my first question or comment goes to Kevin, my friend is and colleague also. Kevin, you talked about wet markets. But I think I missed it. I did not understand what you meant by wet markets. So if you could explain what you mean by that. And then the second comment for you is that I noticed that when you projected your graphs, I looked at the charts on eggs consumption for both the women and the children, and I noticed that looking at the children's consumption level, the proportions of children who are consuming the eggs was slightly, or I think, lower than that of women. So I wanted you to maybe make us understand why that observation was there. Is there anything that would have contributed to that happening? Then my question, the second question, goes to Phineas, and here also to Florence. And both of you have presented intervention studies. And first to Phineas, I agree with your presentation, and this has been documented that kitchen gardens have the potential to increase data diversity in rural areas. What was new is that not many studies have been conducted to show that in the ASALs, and so your presentation is unique to that field. And you have demonstrated that at baseline 20% of the women were consuming diverse diet, while at endline that percentage increased to about 70%, and that is very huge, and it makes us feel like your work was really very good. However, I have a problem with your approach of giving us that figure, because the way you present it makes us feel as though you are the only person working in that particular area. And it makes us feel as though the people were put somewhere in a controlled environment they had no other sources of, for example, income. There were no other programs in that particular area. And so I have to tell you that your way of assessing the impact of your project is not the best. It's not the best in that you miss to have control, because programs need to be costed. We need to tell the donors, we need to tell the government that if you invest such amount of money, you are able to get this amount of increase in terms of health and diversity. By not having a control, we miss on that. And the same to Florence. She also showed us that nutrition education is able to increase the knowledge and diet of the women. But you fail to provide control so that we are able to exactly say that your program is what contributed to that change. So the two presentations did not address that area. So it's a comment, not a question, but you can talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go for it. There is another one.
Oh, I'm told there's another one. Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Daniel Muinja from World Vision. And for Kevin, I liked the discussion about the market. Of course, as he said, I wasn't sure about this wet market and traditional market, so that would be good to clarify. And as the data you showed really is like what we see every time we do surveys in many other parts of the country. Consumption of eggs is low, vitamin, vegetables is low. But one of the things I was asking myself is, with this finding that closeness to markets is influencing consumption, what are you doing on a higher level? Because I know the challenge we have now is that most of the public spaces, especially in the urban centers, become other things, not markets. And that means with increase in the size of cities, the markets will become fewer and fewer. So that means ultimately the distance to the market will keep increasing. What do you plan to do? What kind of engagement are you intending to do? And even sharing the findings so that we can begin planning for markets, including the very urban areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Rosemary Nyambo, again from Kenya School of Agriculture. And my question goes to Calvo. These high iron beans, I think I've been seeing this story, but I want to know about the adoption. When you have the seeds now, you've said there is this nyota from Katumani, and I remember that is where we've been sourcing most of the seed for some counties. As the level of the normal bean and the new bean, the consumption, how is it? And then for the research, this research results of like such a technology, how are you, cascading it to the farmer? How is the research extension agenda going on with this? Thank you.
Okay, we have our 3 questions. Let them answer that because I can see each speaker has at least one, then we'll take another round. I would ask the participants kindly keep to one question so that we can have as many people asking. And I would also want to ask the panelists, be up to the point. Yeah, brief and up to the point. Thank you. So let's start with Kevin. We had many questions there.
So thank you so much for those very important questions to clarify the issues. So Francis asked about wet markets, and many people are wondering what's a wet market. That's a fancy term. So if you want to, in a layman's language, I say the examples. How many of you have gone to Githurai market? That's a wet market. How many of you have gone to Kawangware? There's another one along Wayakiwe is called what? Kangemi Kangemi market, that's another very good example of a wet market. If you go to Kibera, we have toy market. So it is defined as a market that sells fresh products, particularly fresh fruits and vegetables, and this is distinguished from markets which sell durable goods such as clothes, electronics, and the term traditional there is very important because it distinguishes what we are studying from those markets that we now see where we go to groceries in buildings and supermarkets and they store these fresh fruits and vegetables again. So we are talking about those traditional markets. And if you look at other studies that have also been done related to this, many urban consumers still prefer to use those wet markets because they say the quality there is the produce is very fresh. They actually go in the morning when those the products are arriving and things like that. So they actually prefer those markets to the estate building markets that you do not know when the product arrived, what has happened to it, whether it is and you remember the quality issues that have been put in the media, especially for Kenya. I like the example of meat, although that is not a fresh fruit or vegetable, where people do things so that it looks really fresh, but it is not. The second question was about why do we have a lower consumption of eggs for women and for children is a bit high. Again, I mentioned this during the presentation. There are many things that happen within a household. I have seen with my own eyes where a mother would prefer to cook eggs for their baby, and for them they take porridge. And I'm sure you've also seen these things. So there are many dynamics many decision dynamics that go on within a household, and that affects the consumption patterns and ultimately the nutrition of the members of the household. Someone asked about what are we doing to, especially in the light that with the increasing population, the distances to markets are likely to go higher and higher. So for me, it's not actually the distance. For me, it's about access to those markets, access to the quality foods. And in fact, even those estate vendors that have those foods, if we can have a quality assurance mechanism, those are also very good outlets for people to access their foods for consumption. I will leave it at that, so that's my colleagues can also respond.
Okay, thank you, Francis, for your comments. I want to respond. One, I want to make some correction. The increase in terms of dietary diversity was not for women, but for children under 5 years. I also want to confirm that just like any other study, there were some limitations and some assumptions. And one of the limitations or assumptions was there might have been some other partners that were intervening in the same field, especially on gardening or even milk value addition. But I would also want to say that for our study, as I said, it was an external evaluation, and we had both beneficiary and control set, and they were well chosen in terms of even looking at the context for beneficiary site and also for the control site were similar. There were a number of similarities, and that guided us in choosing both. So in terms of really knowing whether the interventions had impact, the information or the data that we collected was comparable between the control site and also the beneficiary site. Both who are in the same sub-county with similar livelihood or livelihood activities, and also had similarities in terms of other weather factors. So apart from the assumptions in terms of not able to really have control over what other maybe partners could have been doing in the same area, we were very clear in terms of choosing both the control and the beneficiary side. Thank you.
Thank you, Francis, for your question. It's a good question. But I want to state that in this study design, the conclusions were based on baseline end-line changes because of the assumptions that were made. And of course, there were also limitations in this study. But I also want to state that other studies have been carried out before using this kind of methodology, and concrete conclusions have been made. So this is not the first one. However, I'm also saying that, remember that we also have, when it comes to human beings, studies on humans, we have ethical issues as well, whether to disadvantage one group versus another group. Those ethical issues also normally arise. So the researcher has to really make a decision. But I want to also say that, however, probably this research could probably recommend another study where we're having a control group and really put in a real controlled environment. Because again, human beings can be very difficult to control. Thank you so much.
Thank you. On the question of consumption and adoption of the new varieties, the current research we are doing in CARO, there are two key things that we follow. One is what is the market demand. The second one we take through all the varieties are the consumption characteristics, like taste, cooking time, water absorption, and then we have added another one, the processing. And the processing being, a lot of population is going to towns. The government is cracking very heavily on use of charcoal and firewood. A lot of flats in towns, you find landlords are saying, don't use charcoal or firewood in the flat, go look for another one. That means the consumers in towns will not eat beans. If they don't eat beans, they will look for alternatives. The farmers will not have a market for their beans, because most farmers, the consumers are not in rural areas. So we are looking at all those factors. So these beans that were released in 2017 and we are promoting, like Faida, Nyota, they are red mottled beans. That means they look like the most common one, Nyayo. Nyayo is a variety that is grown by farmers and they keep on growing it. Then there is normal GL2 rose cocoa. Rose cocoa is also good for processing. Now the main problem comes in differentiating Nyayo and rose cocoa from the market. Other varieties like Camino. So those varieties are the same for processing. Then the other varieties we are having like Kagaza, they are being confused by other varieties like Kakunzu that cook, take a bit longer time to cook. So what is happening is that we are trying to sensitize everybody. We are encouraging all the partners to come on board. In the last 1 year, the counties we have been able to reach through some of the ECCs, any NGOs, Cereal Growers Association, East African Grain Council, several NGOs like Regio Marakwet. We are very happy with the World Vision, county government of Regio Marakwet. It was the first county to buy that metric tons of Nyota. But with the 30 tons of Nyota in Regio Marakwet, the performance of that variety, the farmers, a kilogram of seed is 250. But on average, most of the areas, the farmers with this new seed, they're either selling at 150 to 200 shillings per kg. And then what has also happened is that the processors have also rated some of these varieties to do the products they want to do. Because the processors, You give them the varieties, they test versus what they are doing. They are becoming very good. So the current pricing is the one that has become very high. So county stakeholder platforms have helped, and then we are encouraging people to form bean WhatsApp groups in their counties, in their areas. And the WhatsApp group can be started by a farmer, as an administrator, an NGO, an extension staff like that. Surprisingly, in this room, I was sitting down, my phone was on, and somebody has already tweeted about this presentation in 2 of the platforms. So that means everybody on those platforms, including their farmers, have known. So most of the information, then what we do, when you start that group, as we will add the seed systems experts, we will add the market experts, we will add people with the good agricultural practice experts, we will add the traders and the processors on board. Then for the counties, we are trying to do what? We are splitting the farmers into 2. Farmers who do subsistence and farmers who do commercial. Commercial is from 1 acre and above. Then we are trying to form what is called bean corridors. So like if you are growing Nyota, the bean corridor we have mapped it from Kiambu, through Muranga, through Nyeri, Embu, Kirinyaga, to Laikipia, then that is one zone of it. Then the other corridor is from Narok, through Transmara, Migori, Homa Bay, Kisumu, Siaya, Busia. Then the other corridor starts from Kakamega, Bungoma, through Uasin Gishu, Trans Nzoia, too. So the reason for this is with the internet, with the phone system, a farmer group can be anywhere and having those varieties, and it's very easy to market. The other players coming on board with what they are saying, a virtual market, so that they link everybody anywhere within the world to be able to market. So the current challenge is the seed that is with the sources. How do we move that seed from that area to that area, to the farmers? How does everybody get to know about it? Then the pre-cooked beans that most of the processors are looking for. Because the pre-cooked beans have been made for the town people and the rural people. The pre-cooked bean is, the bean is cooked, so that means the factories put like Smart Logistics in Machakos, their cooker, it takes 20 bags at a go. So if you have 18 bags of Nyota, then there are just 2 bags of Nyayo inside that consignment, the whole consignment will be spoiled. Because the pre-cooked beans, while they are becoming in demand, they don't require refrigeration. When you buy it off a supermarket shop or a shop, you take it home, you only need to soak it in boiled water for 15 minutes, then you cook it for 2 minutes, and you eat it. That's a pre-cooked bean product. Then the other day there was a demand, the counties that are having hunger. So supposing you took each of that family's a pre-cooked bean product, that bean. This guy, one, water is a shortage, firewood is a problem, this guy is weak. It's hot there. So he puts hot water outside, plus the beans inside. By the time he does the other things, he is eating the beans. That is the power of those beans. But we require the raw material, the quantities. And that's how everybody now comes in. Then we're also encouraging at the rural areas people to eat beans in the morning, because the family consumption also has to come in. If you have to tackle the malnutrition we are talking about, how do you increase the bean meal? So farmers have to grow enough for themselves, enough to give to their relatives and everybody else, and now adequate to sell out. I hope I have answered the question.
Thank you very much. So we are going to go this way. We'll take 2 from this side and 2 from this side, right? Let me take a gentleman and a lady from this side. This lady and that gentleman. And then you have there, one gentleman on this side, and get you ladies. There and there. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My question goes to my learned friend with iron.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Berry from Turkana County.
Yeah, and let's say whom you are addressing.
The beans.
Cool.
My interest is food. quantity amount will you justify that this high iron is? What type of what animal source iron food would we compare it with? That is one. Two, my question going to Finehas. Was it pure pastoralists? Were you dealing with agro-pastoralists? Because in Turkana, I think we have a big challenge. We want to learn from you. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Ediri Kenga, nutritionist from Kitui County, and my comments and concern goes to my friend Venus. I know Marsabit County, and I know the challenges that as partners and development agencies that we are going through. I think this is a demonstration of best practices. Even though it was not a research base that you can talk of controls, but it's practice that we have seen, and we will encourage for scale up. However, my concern would be looking at the thematic areas of the multisectoral approach and based adoption of the practices. To what extent has the program included other stakeholders, especially agriculture, in terms of continuity of those extension services, knowledge management, and other services that may ensure we have sustained these best practices that we have really demonstrated, and also to what extent, and if it's there, what is the experience that can you share for us to that we can also adopt in terms of influencing the county to adopt these best practices in their strategies, their policies, or another document that may really support resource mobilizations and sustainability. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Bibiana Khaemba, a nutritionist from Bungoma County. My question goes to, I think the presenter who presented from a project from Marsabit County. In the morning we had a presenter from WFP who was really emphasizing on the role of partners in the ASOL areas. And what you presented is about home gardening and food enrichment. And when you look at your indicators, like the rate of malnutrition in Marsabit County, it's at 30.7%. And nationally, the rate of wasting is at 4%. So you find that your rates are so high. And with the partners on the ground who are really promoting good dietary practices, because they really emphasize on capacity building on the service providers and also ensuring that good dietary practices in form of nutrition education, and also promoting emphasizing on the preventive measures when it comes to ensuring that the community is healthy. So my concern is, what is the impact of the partners in your county or the sub-county that you presented on, and also the role of the service providers? Are you bringing in more stakeholders who have this information that they may bridge the gap of the nutrition gap that is there, so that we can curb on the rate of the malnutrition in your county? Thank you.
My name is Halima Mohammed from Wache County. My question goes to the facilitator from Marsabit. As a pastoralist and from among the ASAL areas, counties, I've liked your approach, but the way to approach or to go into a pastoral community, and then the mechanisms which you used to change those mothers to go into the farming or the home garden production so as to improve their nutrition status. While we knew that their main meal was meat and milk. So to divert them from the meat and milk to now the vegetables and fruits. So to me, in my county, I think it was a bit challenge for us to reach where you have reached. So I would like to advise the approaches you used, please, because you can sit with a pastoral mother. She can tell you, I'm not ready to take this green vegetable because it is their first time or what. So even the preparation, so can you just advise me so that I can go back and practice the same or advice on my pastoral community. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'll take one more. There was this lady. Yes.
Hi. Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's okay. Thank you. I'm Lydia Songok. I come from Nandi County. My question goes to Florence. Yeah, I understand you are targeting the mothers who are attending the antenatal clinic. So I wanted to know, you did it at the antenatal clinics or at the household level? That was the first question. Then also I was interested to know how long did the study took from when you took the baseline and the time that you took the post-analysis. And if it was done at the household level, was there any effect on the other members of the household? Then to finish, one for Carol. I come from Nandi County. I want to know whether I can get the seeds for Nyota in Nandi County, whether you have the agents. And then I was interested to know how you prepare the pre-prepared
Even as after the project transitions, of course the county government will remain, those structures will remain to continue working. We are very optimistic that through those value chains that they are promoting through ASDSP, that they will be able to continue with what we have already started and showed some impact. Also, to mention that even as an organization, we believe in, or we are just development facilitator. We believe in working with the existing structures and not creating our own. And in that regard, there are those respective ministries that we work with closely. And even in terms of follow-ups and monitoring, we do it jointly so that we can be assured of ownership and also continuity even after the project transitions, like line ministries, Department of Agriculture, Department of Livestock, Department of Trade. These are devolved functions within the county government. For Kayemba, you mentioned about WFP mentioning that they have a new strategy whereby they talked about in the morning working with, I think, close to 400,000, I think, beneficiaries within even Marsabit, which is an Asal County. And as you mentioned, yes, indeed, other partners, a number of them are working in Marsabit. But maybe, as I mentioned when I was presenting, our target beneficiaries are 2,000 households, or 2,000 women of the productive age. And looking at even the entire population for Marsabit is close to 400,000. So with the 2,000 that we are intervening currently, I don't think you expect that if a scale-up is not done, maybe by the county government or even other partners, then you are not likely even to improve or reduce cases of malnutrition. So as much as we are saying we are using this integrated approach as a way of curbing malnutrition, on our own we might not do much in terms of reducing these malnutrition levels that currently stands at 30.7%, but it should be a concerted effort between the county governments and also other stakeholders and partners that are working in not just Marsabit but even other counties and more so Asal counties. So partners are there, a number of them. Then Mohammed, in terms of, you are saying that you have tried, if I got you right, but it has not worked out well for you, and you wanted to know probably some of the mechanisms or approaches that we applied so that we could increase adoption levels for whatever that we are doing. One, let me say that as much as we are promoting home gardening, that didn't mean neglecting the livestock value chain, especially milk. In my presentation, I mentioned about how we are supporting 120 households that are organized into groups in terms of milk value addition. So as much as we want to diversify the diets, we didn't target only on home gardening or by neglecting the indigenous even diets for the pastoralists, that is milk and meat, but we are incorporating all those looking at the adoption theory, there are those target, or our emphasis was on using those at a go. That multiply.
Collection I've said was hospital-based. All the data collection was hospital-based. And the women were followed from the beginning at the time they were recruited up to the time when they delivered. And just like I stated, this was only part of the study, a little bit of the study. It was part of a bigger study that was carried out. Otherwise, thank you. I think I've answered that question.
Thank you very much. I'm David Karanja from Karo Katumani. I coordinate grain legumes in Karo. There were 3 questions. First, let me repeat that what we are doing is a collaboration work between Karo, SIAT, other Karo centers, and then the universities. At the universities, we have the professors guiding the MSc students. So most of the laboratory work, analysis at Karo Joro, but most of the others dealing with mixing, doing water has been at the universities. So on the breeding side, we were given by the Kenya National Nutrition Working Group or something like that. We were told for the plants we are working with for zinc, they should have more than 30 parts per million for it to be considered that it has zinc. For the other crops, we were told 90 parts per million for iron. So in our breeding, in our analysis, in the lab test, was to work zinc above that parts per million. Most of the varieties we have are having that 7 parts per million. The black one, KK15, which people in Central for some reason have nicknamed it Raila. If you go to Central, you say Raila, they will give you that bean. That one has very high zinc, and it's among the first one that started moving. Then the others, Punda, Saitoti that I had talked about. So which animal protein I would give out to a nutrition team, and unfortunately they are, because we asked them those questions when we tell us which is the moderate. About mixing of the beans and the maize, that work, that mixing has been being done at the universities. Like one of the products I know, Azuri Health Limited, they have a product called Jamitosha and Tototosha that has taken about 2.5 years, and I think the nutrition group was discussing about it, mixing the beans, cooked beans, mixing the amaranth, mixing the sorghum. it had more components. I was being told that time that than what people are thinking is possible. But with research, things can be done, and I think that's one of the products with about more, and also taking it through discussions with KEB. So those ones are there, and some of the information I get from our nutrition group. They are the ones who give us that information. Because for me, my part is too. On the consumer side, are we having enough beans? Production side, production node. There is in between other players coming. On the consumption side is where we want to go. And somebody asked, how do you make pre-cooked bean products? Two definitions. One is the variety that makes a pre-cooked bean product. Not all bean varieties make the pre-cooked bean product. So the processors, the exporters, will go for specific beans, the ones we are talking about. So simply what happens is the same process for making frozen beans or wet beans. You cook the beans, they cook. But for frozen beans, they are not very particular, but they have started after we told some of the studies done that the consumers with the specific beans, they will like it a bit more. So then they deviate for the pre-cooked beans, to make the pre-cooked beans products, which I tell you which they are. Then those beans, you take them through a process called extruding, where you remove all the water. That means you go through a drying process, you remove all the water to about 7-8% moisture content. And at that level, we have found that even the weevils don't want to eat those beans. So they are able to stay there without the weevil attack. Then from there now they make the various products. One of them is the bean meal. Bean meal is the one I was saying that takes 15 minutes. The second product is called then the bean meal, also there is the bean flour, 100% bean flour. Then you go to the next generation, which we call the bean snacks. Snacks, these are things that are 60% based. And one of them looks like a chocolate. We call them the keromas. You know, go fruity keroma, delicious keroma. The company that is making that, after we did some consumer surveys, they have changed one of the fruity keroma. The consumers were not quite accepting it. So the company has adapted it with one of the universities. So we are going back for more consumer studies. So these are things you will be taking. Then we found out accidentally that those snacks, the keromas, we found accidentally because one of them, that chocolate like bar, fell when we are distributing somewhere. The lady who was eating it fell into her milk. So she was angry, and the man who was nearby said, okay, let me take the milk. So he was offended. The milk was tasting nice, and the keroma was tasting even better. So all of us then went looking for more. Then we realized, oh, okay, this is a breakfast. So we have added that to the breakfast. Then the other one that is coming up also, done from the university, is a bean-based noodle. That's what it's being tested now. So you have a noodle that is 100% nearly beans with the specific varieties. So the yellow bean that is there is not a micronutrient rich, but that bean is making a lot of products. That's why we're also putting it in. The one that is Goda Gaza is also making different products. Nyota is the main one for the bean meal. That one has been known by a lot of processing. So the factories are supposed to be two in Kenya, the one in Machakos. The other factory was supposed to be in Kisumu. The company has relocated to Nairobi, and then they're having another two competitors who are building their factories in Nairobi. There is one coming up in Rwanda, and the latest one is in Malawi. So that's the process for pre-cooked beans. Now, people have been asking, can you do it at home? The tricky bit is in the drying, because that's the time a lot of jumpers will come in. And testing that drying, the people at Kemri said there were a lot of microbes because most of the people drying those beans are taking about 3 days to dry. And during that time is when you have a lot of problems. So I think we discourage home drying of the cooked beans. And we concentrate with the ones coming from the factory. The people like in Machakos, the people who buy in the evening, You know where you go and see people are cooking food chapati? Those guys the other day, they were nearly rioting at Smart Logistics because the boiler blew and they are saying they are cooking. They go buy in buckets. So a customer sits and says, I want madodo na chapati. So the guy is cooking the chapati as the pre-cooked beans are soaking. Then 2 minutes he cooks. So that's the process. I hope now it's clear. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And the conversation has just begun. We need to talk, and we need to carry on talking about what we are carrying out away from these presentations, and especially this track of this afternoon. I know there are many, many more questions, but remember we still have posters to go and view and discuss, interact with the poster presenters, and therefore I would want to bring the discussion session to an end, but you can continue interacting with the panelists today and tomorrow. And even on email, you should be able to exchange that and continue the conversation. I think we had a very interesting theme this afternoon, which was really how do we sustain nutrition and food at the household. And we have been led through very, very, very well, extremely well. We started with the wet markets. We even learned a new term, how the urban poor are doing it and how they will continue doing it. We went through to home gardening all the way in the pastoral regions, where we have seen that is a region that has always been having a problem with the resilience. And then we looked at the power of knowledge in Migori County, how it can impact on improving and sustaining nutrition. And then finally, Mr. Dean has crowned it all. That we no longer need to be afraid of eating beans because it will consume a lot of time, a lot of fuel, na vitu hivyo vingine vyote. And even many people have gas, isn't it? But the pre-cooked ones, have you noticed? They don't have gas. Because you can see all the processes they have gone through. So I would really say, panelists, you have been wonderful this afternoon. You've given us a lot of content, and we are indeed very grateful for the amount of work that you put in to be able to present to us this afternoon. So thank you very much, Phineas, Kevin, Florence, and David. Can we give them a round of applause? Thank you very much. So as we finish, let's pass through the posters, then we have our tea, and we call it a day. And remember again, starting time is as today, 8:30, so that we finish early tomorrow. Do have a blessed evening. So thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was good. Very good. Thank you for the amount of work.